Okay, right. Karma. What is karma? Every action has a consequence. The first principle is the spiritual principle of the soul, the Atma. The Vedic Sanskrit word karma means work or deed, often used in the context of Shruta rituals. In the Rig Veda, the word occurs almost around 40 times. In the Satpat Brahman, chapter 1, sacrifice is declared as the greatest of works. And that associates the potential of becoming immortal with the karma of Agni-Chayan sacrifice. Okay. The concept of karma in Hinduism developed and evolved over centuries. The earliest Upanishads begin with the questions about how and why man is born and what happens after death. Answers the early theories in the ancient Sanskrit documents include the five doctrines, Pitrayan, the cycle of the Pitrus, Devayan, the cycle of transcending paths of gods, etc. These are just outlines of the theory of karma and where it's evolved from. The ritual that is done now is that which the gods did in the beginning. What the gods did then was to create the world, an event that the late Vedic texts often depict as having occurred through the sacrifice. So, the first principle is the spiritual principle of the soul, as I mentioned. The soul is said to be eternal, immutable, not born, not created, and indestructible. That's the most important principle. The second principle is the body, the sharir. So what? Well, the birth is the union of the spiritual soul and the material body, which the Atma has to undergo because of karma. The nature of birth, which is the condition of the body to which the Atma gets united, depends on karma. From these facts, we can say the Atma has to be born repeatedly. The soul should undergo birth and rebirth due to this inviolable law of karma. And therefore, this doctrine of transmigration of the soul or reincarnation and the doctrine of karma comes from. Sansar means to wander through a series of states as conditions. Sansar is the beginning cycle of birth, death, rebirth as a process implied by karma. The effects of karmas are, of course, the phalas, the fruits, and also the sanskars, the vasana of the mind and the self-perception of the soul. The theory of karma is considered to be the earliest statement of the karma doctrine that appears in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. After the diseased soul enters into the various planes of the cosmos, a process that replicates the dismemberment of the men comes about. A common theme to the theory is also which goes in the Upanishad as, now as a man is like this or that. This is just for your information, that this is stated exactly from the Upanishad. Now as a man is like this or like that, according he acts and according he behaves, so will he be. A man of good acts will become good. A man of bad acts will become bad. He becomes pure by pure deeds, bad by bad deeds. And here they say that a person consists of desires, and as is his desire, so is his will. So the vasana comes about in that. And whatever deed he does, that he will reap. And this is the exact quotation from the Upanishad. The interpretation of the karma differs from the doctrine's apparent meaning in later texts as well. In the Vedic Rigved ritual, the general meaning can easily be seen in Yajnavalkya's statement. One becomes good by good action and bad by bad action. In fact, this was precisely how 19th and early 20th century Indologists, these are the people who study the theories from India, tended to view this. One becomes good by good action, bad by bad action, seem to express a principle of morality extending to all sorts of actions. Their claims of a shared Upanishad, the Brihadaranyaka, as I mentioned, and Chandogya Upanishad in particular, the Vedic rites represent the starting point into the nature of what is real, and increasing greater levels of abstraction in the concrete event of sacrifice. Now, we're going to be touching on these Upanishads at a later stage. Therefore, the Vedic cosmology expresses the idea of correlation between men and cosmos in the ideology of the cosmic Puran. In the Purush Sutra in the Rigved, Prajapati in the Brahmans, they both comment on the same state of karma. Karma emerges from these complex structures, and the point in the history of Indian tradition, this text represents the furthest edge of Vedic thought and the first stage in the rise of the karmic theory. Certain notions of the karmic presuppositions are all post-Vedic. However, we're not going to entertain those in this section. At the most basic level, the Vedic tradition employed the term karma from the Sanskrit root kar, which means to do, to describe the doing of any ritual. And karma yoga is where you do your worldly duties, as we discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. and simultaneously learn to love and surrender to God. That's the distinction between karma yoga and karma. Okay, and now we move on to these are the different origins of karma. The ancient text, which is the Rig Veda, as I mentioned, Upanishad, Brahmanas, Aranyaks, the Garud Puran, the Mahabharata, etc. We have a few others as well, but these are the main ones which are quite definitive in the excuse me, in the theory of karma. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord Shri Krishna states in chapter 2, verse 47, which is an important verse for karma, the theory of karma. Karmane evadhikaras te ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phale hetur bhurma te sango stav karmani, which means you have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. We discussed that in our question and answers or the homework part. This is an extremely popular verse of Bhagavad Gita. It offers deep insight into the proper spirit of work, which is often quoted whenever the topic of karma yoga is discussed. The verse gives instructions regarding the science of our duty, which means do your duty, but do not concern yourself with the results. The fruits of your actions are not for your enjoyment. Even while working, give up the pride of doership. Do not be attached to inaction either. We have the right to do our duty, but the results are not dependent only upon our efforts. A number of factors come into the play in determining the results of our efforts. One is destiny, which is our past karmas. Number two, the will of God. Number three, the effort of others. And the cumulative karmas of people involved, the place and the situation. Now, if we become anxious for results, we will experience anxiety whenever they are not according to our expectation. Therefore, Sri Krishna advises Arjuna to give up concern for the result and instead focus solely on doing a good job. The fact is, when we are unconcerned about the results, we are able to focus entirely on our efforts, and the result is even better than by focusing on the results. A humorous acronym for this is NATO. Not the United Nations, NATO. It's talking about not attached to the outcome. Consider its application to be simple, everyday activity, anything, whether it's playing golf or, people engrossed in other fruits. Now, if they could merely focus on playing the shots to do the best of their abilities, it would be more enjoyable to play the game. The fruits of your actions are not for your enjoyment, and to perform actions is an integral part of our human nature. Having come into this world, we all have various duties determined by our family situation, social position, occupation, etc. While performing these actions, we must remember that we are not the enjoyers of the results. The results are for the pleasures of God. The individual soul is a tiny part of God, as per Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 7, shlok 7. And our inherent nature is to serve Him through all our actions. God is the master of the entire creation. All moving and non-moving beings are His servants. Material consciousness is characterized by following the manner of thoughts. I am the proprietor of all, and all that I possess. It is all meant for my enjoyment. I have the right to enhance my possessions and maximize my enjoyment. The reverse of this is spiritual consciousness, which is characterized by thoughts such as God is the owner and enjoyer of the entire world. I am merely His selfless servant. I must use all that I have in the service of God. This is particularly true for Bhakti Yoga, act of devotion. Accordingly, Sri Krishna instructs Arjuna not to think of himself as the enjoyer of the fruits of actions. Even while working, give up the pride of doership. I know in the modern year they talk about empowerment. However, if you look at the minute structure of this does provide empowerment by performing better. Sri Krishna wants Arjuna to give up his ego of being the doer. He instructs Arjuna never to chase after the preconceived motives attached to his actions, nor to consider himself as the cause of the results of his actions. However, when we perform actions, then why should we not consider ourselves as the doers of action? You know, we talked about Bhagavad Gita, and also I did that, the self-ego. This is what we're talking about in this shlok. For example, in the kitchen, the tongs which are inactive by themselves, but they get energized by somebody's hands, and they perform even difficult tasks such as lifting, burning coal, etc. Now, if we say the tongs are the doers of the action, it would be inaccurate. If the hand did not energize them, what would they be able to do? They would merely lie inert on the table. Similarly, if God did not supply our body, mind, soul mechanism with the power to perform the actions, we could have done nothing. Therefore, we must give up the ego of doing and remembering that God is only the source of the power by which we perform all our actions. All the thoughts are nicely summarized in a popular Sanskrit verse, which says, whatever I have achieved and whatever I wish to achieve, I am not the doer of this. O Madhusudan, you are the real doer, and you alone are the enjoyer of their results. Do not be attached to inaction either. The nature of living beings is to work. Often situations arise where work seems burdensome and confusing, or life itself becomes chaotic, and you just want to, hide away or run away from it. However, we must understand and implement the proper science of work as explained by Sri Krishna to Arjuna. It is highly inappropriate if we consider work to be laborious or burdensome, and resort to inaction. Becoming attached to inaction is never the solution and is clearly condemned by Sri Krishna. Now, the karmic trails and psychic imprints. This is very, very important. Any action you perform or any thought you pursue leaves an imprint on the mind, and those imprints are the basis of the karma. Today, I shall also go about the tangible residue, which is the physical karma. All physical actions requiring touch are physical. Physical karma leaves behind physical residue. Let us say you have an apple. You peel and deseed it to enjoy better taste. You eat the apple, leaving the skin and the seeds behind. Your action of eating the fruit has resulted in the residue of apple, skin, and seeds. 3 different things. You dispose of the uneaten part. A cow comes and gladly accepts that as its food. Therefore, the residue you left behind has now impacted someone else who you're not even aware of. You may not even know them. Obviously, it's a cow. The apple that you consumed is now in your body. It is processed by your digestive system. 2 sets of residues are formed. The one that gets absorbed in your body is now traveling in your veins by the way of blood, and unabsorbed portion is let out by a physical system by the way of urine and feces. Further, bacteria and other atomic entities may feed on such excreta. Now, your physical karma, okay, of eating an apple has left an imprint on you and other life forms. The residue from the apple that is in your blood directly affects your physical health, okay? The residue eaten by the cow has a bearing on its health and the quality of milk it produces. The excrements from your body have an impact on atomic life forms as well as the environment. It does not seem much, does it? Well, think about it. Imagine 6 to 10 billion humans on the planet doing that. Further, vision billions of other living creatures in the equation. The physical world is a residue of collective karma. It is that residue that matters. Your physical karma has a telling impact on you and your immediate surroundings. Plus, it has an impact on the whole world, on the path of self-transformation, self-control. Everything starts by following the discipline of living. The actual practice around this will be covered in due course when we go to the appropriate sections in the Bhagavad Gita as well. Now, we talk about the verbal karma, that is the psychic residue. Whether on instruction, statement, question, whatever it may be, anything you utter, even as I'm speaking, this is verbal karma. This karma leaves behind psychic residue. Words uttered by each one of us have a great impact on the mind and consciousness as well. Not to forget the mind of those who are at the receiving end. As I'm talking, I'm sure it's making an impact on your minds. A conditioned mind is supported and driven by psychic imprints. It is relatively easy to clean up physical residue, but psychic one takes much greater effort. Let us go back to the example of the apple. And let's assume you are a person of fine taste and that this time you have company while eating. The apple is deliciously fresh and crunchy with perfect sweetness. You remark about its taste, how you have never had such an amazing apple. A few weeks later, you may not recall the taste of the apple, but you're likely to remember what you had said at the time of consumption. In fact, anytime anyone else is going to make a similar remark about other fruits, it may remind you of the apple, which is an interesting point. If you had not uttered anything while eating the apple, it would be much easier for you to forget about the apple. And why is that? Because you left no psychic imprint beyond the taste and the sight of the fruit. On the path of self-transformation, at some point in time, one ought to observe strict verbal discipline. That's also going to be covered in the Bhagavad Gita to a certain extent. And there are extracts of Garur Puran which covers this superbly. I will touch on that a bit later on. Now, the third karma we're talking about is the mental karma, which psychic imprint, which is what remains in our head. The subtlest and most powerful of all the karmas is the mental karma. It leaves behind a permanent trail, which is hard to erase. The origins of all karma of any type is a thought. You know, we talk about actions, what we do by creating karma, what we are doing, that is karma. But no, actually, the psychic imprints, the mental karma, that is where it all begins. Pursuit of a thought is known as mental karma. Whatever you all are thinking right now, as I'm talking and using my verbal karma, this is you pursuing your mental karma. And it has an immediate impact on your mental state, a lasting impact on your consciousness, and an everlasting effect, however subtle, on your mind. Once again, we go back to the apple. That the reason for using the same example is so that you can see the differences and how the three different states apply to the same situation. This time you do not have the apples with you. The thought of an apple crosses your mind. You do not drop that thought. Instead, you start to pursue it. From the original thought of the apple, you are recalled of the time that you last had an apple. That thought may link you to the thought of buying the apple from the shop. Just note, the initial apple thought has now shifted and you are now thinking about the shop. The shop owner's picture, communication flashes in front of you. Sainsbury's, Lidl, and Tesco, all the stores, Marks and Spencer's, Pink Lady, everything going through your head. You recall giving money to the seller. You're reminded of another customer who was shopping for bananas standing next to you. You further recall how she was carefully picking the bananas and her physical attributes. Now you started a whole chain of thought process, the mental karma. You are now also reminded back to the thought of the shopkeeper, because he returns you the change with your bag of apples. You take the bag and start walking. You are now reminded of the market conditions. You may even further recall some unpleasant incident that may have happened one time in this market. And with this coronavirus and all the risks involved, you might even remember or recall incident that you might have witnessed on WhatsApp, some terrible incidents whereby we have certain parts of the society and they're, spitting on the viruses on the fruit. So we become cautious and withdrawn to how to deal with the fruit. Either way, the whole chain has begun. Only if you had remembered to not think of the things other than the object of your apple. Had you dropped the thought of the apple at the very moment it emerged, you would have not gone through the grind of the mental karma. You would have enjoyed lucid, crisp, gratifying session of meditation. I hope you know that an average human being goes through 60,000 thoughts during the course of 24 hours. This is on average. No wonder some people do not sleep. And some people enjoy the sleep. At least you get some break. The act of concentration is designed to instill a discipline of mental karma. And the art of meditation is to maintain that state. Memory has a very important role to play in correct meditation when you are able to retain only a part of your memory. That is the object of meditation. You are moving towards achieving a tranquil state. However, memory is also your greatest hurdle in meditating correctly. This whole process of thinking about the apple, which is the object, that is also meditation. However, you've lost track as you went on with the series of the cycle of getting to the apple from the store. Primarily, because your memory is an accumulation, a storage tank of your psychic imprints. As Patanjali Yoga Sutras state, a function of consciousness, memory is the unaltered collection of words and experiences. That is the karma. It is not possible to empty your memory store. However, it is possible to drop the thought as soon as it starts to emerge. That leads to a state of non-recollection. When you hold your mind in a tranquil, absorptive state, afflictions from psychic imprints start to fade. Your mind operates on the famous computing principle of GIGO. Garbage in, garbage out. G-I-G-O. Garbage in, garbage out. If you do ill, speak ill, and think ill, the residue is going to leave you sick. If you do well, speak well, and think well, the outcome is going to be well. Positive and negative thoughts impact. Excess of anything results in excess residue. The more you eat, the greater the inventory, the bigger the headache of managing it. via weight or anything. Imagine having a warehouse stocked up with unnecessary widgets. Your mind is a warehouse. Do not stock it up with useless stuff. Watch what you do, say, and think. Transformation will begin automatically. The Supreme Yogi, Sri Krishna, says to Arjuna on this matter in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, Shlok 19. Yatha Deepo Nivatasto Nengate Sopama Smriti Yogina Yata Chitasya Yunjato Yogam Atmana. The conquered mind of the yogi is still like the unflickering lamp in a place devoid of wind. Basically, in the absence of wind, the flame stays steady. Similarly, a tranquil mind remains still in the absence of wind of desires. And once again, desires are simply thoughts unabandoned, with an ever-present mind that has turned inward or surrendered to the divine. You will never find yourself pursuing unwanted thoughts. In that state of non-pursuit, how can there be any disagreeable reactions from you? In the light of vigilance of the still mind, how can there be any deviations from the object of your meditation? A mind that has gone empty fills with love naturally. Just like a body gets tired after prolonged physical work, just like you get tired if you speak continuously for long periods, your mind gets tired from the unceasing mental karma. Therefore, a complete adoption of the yoga of self-transformation in your life, living, and character will allow you to enjoy deep dives in the ocean of bliss within you. A fit body, restrained speech, and a calm mind. Naturally, outcome of correctly treading the right path. Now, different constituents of human beings. We discussed this, the different guns or the nature of the individuals. There is sattvic, rajas, and tamas. And that will be one of the deciding factors of the different karmas as we move on to the next phase. The different types of karma I touched on it last week. However, we'll go through that. The first one is the prarabdha karma, which is the matured karma, and the destiny that we come with. Okay, and then imagine a fruit, an apple on the tree is one of the basic examples without going into any other thing. It has come of its age and it is ripe. Either it be plucked in time or it detaches itself from the tree and lands on the ground. It cannot remain on the tree forever. Similarly, prarabdha is a ripe karma, a destiny that we come with, which is ready to be dispensed at a particular time. Regardless of your desire or your preference, it has taken its course, much like the arrow that leaves the bow. So we have no interference in the prarabdha karma because it's karma that's already occurred and destiny is going to deliver the fruits. We have the sanchit karma, which is basically the cumulative karma. This is your store of karma. Not all fruits on the tree will mature the same day. It will be growing again in the next season and the next, and so forth. It is for this reason that life is greatly cyclical for majority of the people. If you planted an apple tree, when the season comes, you would have plenty of it. And if you planted wild berries, however attractive, thorny bushes, yet protective, they will flourish during their own seasons. It is often the case why problems rarely come singularly. They come in hordes. So do good times. There is something unique about Sanchit Karma. It can be changed. If you go to the source of your apples or berries, you can choose to nurture them or to destroy them altogether. The key is going to the source, and that is the Sanchit Karma. How to change that will come at a later stage. We are currently just addressing the karmas, and I'm just going to add a few examples on this. I think that would be useful. And okay. Then we have the Kriyaman Karma, which is the present, Vartaman, also known as Vartaman Karma. And then we have the Agam, which is the forthcoming karma or mandatory delivery. And the final one is Nishkam, but that will address at a later stage. Okay. So in the Sanchit Karma, there are certain Kriyaman karmas which do not instantaneously ripen to give you the fruits immediately. Therefore, they remain pending in deposit, waiting for the opportunity to ripen and bear fruits at the appropriate moment in future. Yeah, this is current karmas, as also it can also be a bit of prarabdha karma. It's a combination of the two. As they are kept in a storehouse to be dispensed accordingly, they are hence known as Sanchit Karma. For example, you take a laxative in the morning, but you will get the result of the motions after a few hours. You appeared in the examination today, but you will get your results after a month or 2 months, whatever. You may have abused somebody today, but you'll have to wait for an opportunity time to take revenge. You harassed or tortured your parents in your young age, causing a lot of anguish to them. And those karmas, the children will torture you in your old age. These are just some examples, and they're quite vivid. You tried and labored enthusiastically with great devotion to become a proficient musician or a famous painter. But before acquiring that perfection, you may leave your body. Even then, your labor of the present birth is not wasted. In the subsequent birth, you will continue your efforts and will definitely reach your goal of perfection when you will get the fruits of your labor. The certain actions and efforts in the present Kriyaman karmas do take time to ripen to enable them to yield the fruits. Till then, they're stored away, kept in a storage, and they get accumulated in the balance as sanchit karmas. But either way, every action will have its reaction. Every cause will have its effect. Every effort will have its destiny, determined in due course of time without exception. The millet seeds take 90 days to become ripe. Wheat seeds take 120 days to ripen up and be ready for reaping as wheat, corn, etc. It takes time to germinate into ripe fruit for the cause to be transformed into effect. The time varies according to the nature of the seedlings and the potentiality of the cause of the action. And the perfect example we have from the Ramayana. That's the historical story of Sri Ramchandraji. And we can take Sri Dashrath Raja as the, Dashrath Raja and his action as part of this example. In his young age, Dashrath Raja once killed an innocent Brahmin called Shravan Kumar, who was tending to his old blind parents. And on being killed, he cursed the king that he shall also have to die due to the separation of his son. At that time of the curse, Sri Dashrath was not married, and hence the curse could not be effective immediately. See the difference. His action was therefore kept pending as sanchit karma, waiting for the right opportunity or time to come. In due course of time, when Sri Dashrath got married, also got Ram as his son, then precisely just on the auspicious coronation day of Sri Ramchandraji, the unholy, sinful past action of the king Dashrath immediately cropped up, and he had to die because of the curse compelling the separation of his son Sri Ram. Curiously enough, even Sri Ram, the omnipotent God incarnate, as we discussed in the 10 main avatars of the Lord, in due respect to the immutable law of karma, chose not to interfere by showing any favoritism to his own father in giving him extension for at least 14 years till he would return from the forest. This is a prime example. King Dashrath, when he lost, we can take another example, and that is from the Mahabharata. King Dhritarashtra, when he lost all his 100 sons in the battlefield, he inquired with Lord Krishna as to why he met with such a disastrous loss, even though he did not remember to have committed any such horrible sin during his present lifetime. This is a very, very important example because it will also cover the effect of why he was born blind. Lord Krishna, out of respect and sympathy for him, gracefully bestowed upon him divine vision so that he could visualize for himself the heinous act perpetrated by him in his previous births, which was responsible for his current misery of losing the 100 sons. So King Dhritarashtra discovered that 50 births back, this is going back 50 births, When he was a hunter of birds, he once threw his burning net on a tree, causing 100 small baby birds to be entrapped and burnt to ashes. While the remaining big birds flew away, but they became blind due to the scorching heat of the burning net. The effect of this horrible, sinful deed was that the king Dhritarashtra became and remained blind all throughout his life and also lost his 100 sons. King Dhritarashtra wondered and further inquired from Lord Krishna as why that sinful act did not immediately rebound him to punish him in the same birth or even during his immediately next birth. And why did it remain dormant as Sanchit Karma for such a long period of 50 lifetimes? Therefore, Sri Krishna smiled and replied that his past sinful deed had to wait for an opportunist time of 50 births, during which time he could earn and accumulate enough pious deeds to merit him to be eligible to even get 100 sons and to become a king. Therefore, in one lifetime, that his previous sinful Sanchit karma could be instantaneously confront him with the effects of his evil actions. This is a prime example. Nobody can escape or avoid the punishment for his sinful actions, even after 50 or 500 births. Of course, the sinful deeds will remain latent and dormant as Sanchit karmas, waiting for the right opportunity to perform or to confront the person. So long as the stock of his pious, meritorious deeds is not fully exhausted, the sinful deeds will not be able to attack the person and will bide their time. But in any event, that will not allow the person to escape. His sins will catch up with him at the most opportunistic time and will definitely be delivered even after 100 years or 1,000 births. Therefore, there is neither delay nor any chaos or confusion in the accounts of karma in the house of justice, in the house of God. However, God is full of both mercy and justice. There are innumerable such instances in our scriptures that also in our day-to-day life propounding this doctrine of karma. As you sow, so shall you reap. The fruits either immediately or in due course of time, as and when they become ripe, either in the present life or in the subsequent births to follow. Therefore, this is talking about Sanchit Karma. When we talk about Prarabdha Karma, there are mountain full of karmas unripe like Sanchit Karmas piled up, amounting to billions and billions of karmas deposited in the account at the credit of each and every person, all of us, no matter who it is. Each and every person earned during his past innumerable births since time immemorial. They do not become ripe to give fruits at all the time in one birth. Only a very few of them, say about 10,000 Sanchit karmas out of this whole tremendous stock, become ripe and ready to give fruits during one lifetime. And they are called Prarabdha karmas. readily destined to give fruits commonly known as fate, luck, fortune, destiny, etc., whatever you want to call it. And that is the prarabdha karma. That is a part of the cumulative karma from sanchit karma of previous lifetimes that have occurred. Strictly according to prarabdha karmas, a person gets a particular type of body, parents, wife, children, wealth, caste, creed, race, sex, environment, just about everything, appropriate to enjoy and suffer and exhaust as his prarabdha karmas, destined during his present lifetime. You know, when children are born in a particular way, sometimes people get distorted with all sorts of thoughts, you know, that why is God so cruel to, you know, make children go through all sorts of diseases and all that. But when you understand the theory of karma, you can understand what is happening, and that is prarabdha karmas during, you know, occurred from our previous lifetimes, and it could be millions of lifetimes. However, one cannot leave his present body till he has fully enjoyed or suffered and exhausted all these prarabdha karmas during his present life, even though he is totally bedridden or suffering due to paralysis and other diseases, and desperately craving for freedom from his crippled body. But as soon as his prarabdha karmas, destined to be enjoyed during his present lifetime, are fully exhausted, he immediately becomes free from this body and again gets a new body to enjoy other new prarabdha karmas. Example, about 20,000 which have become ripe by the time to give him fruits. Unfortunately, whilst exhausting his predestined prarabdha karmas during one lifetime, he creates and accumulates many more new karmas during the same lifetime, which are again deposited in the stock of his previous sanchit karmas. And this situation is repeated in every birth. Okay. The vicious cycle goes on uninterruptedly, increasing instead of decreasing. The total balance of sanchit karmas at end of each birth, the stock of sanchit karma is increasing by leaps and bounds, as the new accumulation is much more than the previous expenditure during each birth. Therefore, the cycle of birth and death has no end to this process. This is as per our Hindu scriptures, ancient Hindu scriptures. There is quite indefinite and death goes on indefinitely. However, the hope or chance for liberation is very, very low based on this. As Sri Shankaracharya ji humbly requested God under one of his prayers, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Mudamate, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jatare Shayanam. It's a very, very famous and a beautiful pratna by Shankaracharya ji. Iha sansare khalu dushtare, krupaya pare pahi murare. Repeated births and repeated deaths, and repeatedly sleeping in the womb of the mother for 7 months. This ocean of sansar is really difficult to cross. Oh God, kindly save me and help me to cross. This is basically one of the solutions. We'll discuss that in the next part of it. However, so long as you have not entered into any actions, you will have no reaction. But inaction has also been forbidden. Therefore, before doing any sort of karma, you are free to think about it and the possible reaction or outcome. But immediately after doing that karma, you are not at all free to escape the consequences. In this human birth, you are at full liberty to do any good or bad action that you choose. This is the free will karma that we talk about. You can be a good man, a noble man, an honest person, and that you should be. But even if you want to be mean, crooked, dishonest, it's all at your liberty. So be it, of course, at your own risk. And the cost, be prepared for it. The consequences. You cannot blame anybody, nor can you escape from the effect. As you sow, so shall you reap, right? As a human being, you are totally independent to any action you choose. But the mind, well, independence implies responsibility also. The more the independence, the more the responsibility. You and you alone are responsible for your own actions and nobody else. Once you are caught up in any karma, do not try and escape by blaming anybody else or even God. This is the as stated in the theory of karma. Such unqualified independence is not given to animals, birds, etc. However, because of that, they are of lower status because they possess only a functional mind, a lower intelligence, but no wisdom. They therefore go about their activities only by intuition and instinct. They are controlled by nature, while you are the controller of nature. God has bestowed us human beings with higher intelligence as well as wisdom. So if human beings misuse their intelligence and do not use the wisdom, they are liable to severe punishment according to the provisions of law of karma. I think I'm going to stop here and we're going to continue from this stage because I think yeah. Play? Yeah. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature.
પ્રત્યક્ષદર્શી જ્ઞાની પોતાની પ્રકૃતિ મુજબ ચેષ્ટા કરે છે. પ્રાણી પોતાના કર્મો પ્રમાણે વર્તે છે અને જ્ઞાની પોતાના સ્વરૂપમાં જે પ્રમાણે જેની પ્રકૃતિનું દબાણ હોય એ રીતે તે કાર્ય કરે છે. આ સ્વયં સિદ્ધ છે. આમાં કોઈ શું નિરાકરણ કરી શકે? આ જ કારણ છે કે સૌ લોકો મારા મત પ્રમાણે કર્મમાં પ્રવૃત્ત નથી થઈ શકતા. તેઓ આશા, મમતા, સંતાપનું, બીજા શબ્દોમાં રાગ દ્વેષનો ત્યાગ નથી કરી શકતા. તેનાથી કર્મનું સાચું આચરણ નથી થતું. આને વધુ સ્પષ્ટ કરે છે અને બીજું કારણ બતાવે છે.
Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes of nature. What can repression accomplish? In this, Sri Krishna again comes back to the point. I beg your pardon. Okay, Sri Krishna again comes back to the point about action being superior to inaction. Propelled by the natures, people are inclined to act in accordance with their individual natures. The modes, the rajas, sattvic, and tamas guns. Even those who are theoretically learned carry with them a baggage of sanskars, which are tendencies and impressions. You know, we talked about the different karmic attributes of endless past lives, the prarabdha karma of this life, and the individual traits of their minds and intellects. They find it difficult to resist this force of habit and nature. If the Vedic scriptures instructed them to give up all works and engage in pure spirituality, it would create an unstable situation. Such artificial repression would be counterproductive by, pretending that, okay, I'm going to leave all this, I'm going to become a sannyasi, and I'm going to do that. But you can't do that because your previous karmas are enforcing a certain destiny as well. And hence the nature, the characteristics are according to that. The proper and easier way for spiritual advancement is to utilize the immense force of habit, the tendencies, and direct it in the direction of God. We have to begin the spiritual ascent from where we stand. And doing so requires we have to first accept our present condition of what we are and then improve on it. You need to put a mirror against yourself, for yourself, and look at your current traits. And therefore, the reflection that you get, you can think about it and then work on improving it. But before you do that, you can't, because then you're just going to pretend to be somebody else, which we are not. We are all individuals and different with different capacities. We can see how even animals act according to their unique natures. Ants are social creatures that they bring food for the community while forsaking it for themselves. That's what ants are, which is a quality that is difficult to find in the human society. It's amazing. A cow has such intense attachment for its calf that the moment it goes out of its sight, the cow feels disturbed. Dogs display the virtue of loyalty to the depths that cannot be matched by any best of humans, the loyalty of a dog. Similarly, we humans are propelled by our own natures. Since Arjuna was a warrior by nature, a Kshatriya, his nature will compel him to fight. As is stated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 59, as we move forward. You will be driven by your nature, by your own inclination, which is born from your own nature. That nature should be sublimated by shifting the goal from your worldly enjoyment to God realization and performing the prescribed duty without attachment and aversion in service to God. Okay? Text 34.
ઇન્દ્રિય અને ઇન્દ્રિયોમાં રાગ અને દ્વેષ રહેલા છે. આ બંનેને વશ થવું જોઈએ નહીં, કારણ કે આ કલ્યાણ માર્ગમાં કર્મથી ચલિત કરનારી પ્રણાલીમાં આ રાગ અને દ્વેષ ભયંકર શત્રુઓ છે.
There are principles to regulate attachment and aversions pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Although Sri Krishna previously emphasized that the mind and senses are propelled by natural tendencies, he now opens up the possibility of harnessing them. As long as we have the material body, for its maintenance, we have to utilize the objects of senses. Sri Krishna is not asking us to stop consuming what is necessary. Our day-to-day lives, whatever we need, the necessities for the current modern